Thank you, Moderator. Thank you, Honorable Chairperson and Panellists and the audience. Good afternoon. Firstly, I want to say about my country, Bangladesh. You know, the government of Bangladesh has given shelter of around 800,000 Rohingya who have forcibly displaced from Myanmar. I think it is a good example of our Prime Minister. It is an example of humanity. But the matter of regret that the overall situation of indigenous peoples in Bangladesh is not good. You know, in our country, this is a very small country. Only the area is 147,000 square kilometers, but population is 160 million. But our indigenous peoples, they are only 3 million. In Chittagong Hilltex part, they have 1 million, and in Plainland, I am from Plainland, there are 2 million indigenous peoples, and our communities, total indigenous communities is 54 communities. So I think this EMRIP session is, the topic of the session is very nice for us. And today also this side event, it is also important for us because beyond the development aggressions, elaborating FPIC in social development sectors in the country. So in the session, I have given the statement that the FPIC violations in our country. Last year, in 2017, around 20,000 acres of land, indigenous people's lands, have been grabbed or proceeded to grab in our country. In the name of military camps, in the name of government projects, in the name of eco park, national parks, the government and not state actors, they get these lands. So this is the situation, but I think I want to say about the development project of our country. Bangladesh government highly appreciated this action, SDG, Sustainable Development Goals, target 2030, and they said that they will implement it properly. And the government said that they don't need to wait until 2030. Maybe before 2030, they will implement all the goals. So it is a good point for us. So what is the government action to include the indigenous peoples in Bangladesh? The government already formed a high-level national committee led by principal coordinator to implement SDG goals. And already they mapped out the responsibilities of the ministries. Which ministry will work for this goal? Already they mapped out. And they integrated the 2030 agenda in the 5-year plan. The government has 5-year plan. It is now running 7 5-year plan. It started from 2016 to 2020. They already included the SDG goals there. And they declared that they will include all the societies, all the communities, even ethnic communities, disabled communities, and all marginalized communities. And they said that they have already prepared the action plan, how they will work this. So what is my concern and the concern of indigenous peoples? They have good action plan. They have target to include different stakeholders. But what is the way? Our Honorable Chair already said that about narrow understanding. What is the understanding of FPIC, Free Prior Informed Consent, of the Bangladesh government? If they include only their planning, but actual, it is not implemented in the field, how can we say we are included? Because all the decision planning, it is made by government, and only some consultation meetings, they call some representative of indigenous peoples. But I think it is not the way to engage indigenous peoples, because if you want to engage indigenous peoples, you need to respect the indigenous peoples. You need to go to indigenous peoples who are living in remote area. They have no representative in capital city. So my concern is that the government plan is okay, I appreciate, but their implementing process is not satisfactory for indigenous peoples in Bangladesh. Because if you want to work for indigenous people, so firstly, you need to diagnose the problems of indigenous peoples, but government did not do that. We have no accurate data. We are telling we are 3 million indigenous peoples in Bangladesh, but government said only 1.5 million indigenous peoples in Bangladesh, because the government has no any specific data, no any survey in our country about indigenous peoples numbers. So this aggregated data is important in SDG goals. So in our country, no disaggregated data for especially indigenous peoples in Bangladesh, and there is a data gap between government information and indigenous peoples information, and no specific policy in our country. Government did not recognize, my friend said already, in other countries also, the government did not recognize as indigenous peoples. They include in their many policies about ethnic people. That is good. And they will do many things for indigenous peoples. All the decision making, all the planning are made by government. They did not consult with the indigenous peoples. Only they call the indigenous peoples to inform their decisions. So I think it is not a proper way. And government said that they have taken bottom-up process to include indigenous and other communities. But bottom-up process, the main indigenous peoples who are living in the remote area of the country, they don't know actually what is the sustainable development goals and what is the government steps against to fulfill these goals. And you know, Bangladesh government has signed Chittagong Hill Text in 1997. It is almost 20 years, but this government already taken 20 years, but still now they accepted the recommendation from UPR sessions, first cycle, second cycle, and third cycle also. Yes, we will implement the CHT Accord fully. But actually, the indigenous peoples, they are now frustrated. The government is very fine to accept recommendations to fulfill the rights of indigenous people, but actually we don't see the result. This is the main concern. So what is the government project? The government project is for the indigenous peoples, for plain lands, and overall the country, they have one very strong program. This name is Social Safety Net Program. Around 13% national budget are included for this program. But in the Social Safety Net Program, we can see that for indigenous peoples, not enough project. Most of the projects are for overall populations, like for marginalized peoples, we do old age grant, developing project, complex construction, like that. Only one project for special area, it is called a special program for plainland ethnic community. Very few budget in this program, and this program is not so updated, because now the government has taken the strategy to implement the SDG goal, but program is same. This program started 15 to 20 years ago. So we expect from government they will take special program, special projects for the indigenous peoples of Bangladesh, but actually we don't see that. Like poverty alleviation, I want to say about that. Government said now upper poverty line is 24.3% and extreme poverty line in Bangladesh is 12.9%. This is the report of last year. But one researcher said that for indigenous peoples, upper poverty line is 65% and extreme poverty line is 45%. You can see the gap of the national figure and the figure of indigenous peoples. So we are demanding for disaggregated data, to collect disaggregated data to implement fully the SDG goals. And women empowerment. You can see in our country, the parliament, national parliament, there are 50 reserved seats for women. And all local governments body, at least one seat for women. But for the indigenous peoples or indigenous women, no any seat in the parliament or national or local bodies. So how can we, our indigenous peoples or our indigenous women, they will be empowered? All times, violence against women happening in our country. Still now, in 6 months, already 6 indigenous women have been killed after rape or gang rape, and already 20 incidents occurred in our country regarding violence against women. So we can say that, thank you, in 2 minutes I will finish. The situation of violence against women or human rights violations are not good in our country. The government said they will take their proper step to educate the indigenous children. Yes, they have taken a step in 2011, mother tongue based pre-primary school. It is good, already government has started for 5 communities out of 54 communities of our country, but it has also many problems because of book text curriculum is not good, and the teachers, they are not from indigenous community, they are not good trainer, lot of problem also there. And health sector also we can say that in our for our indigenous communities, they have practice of traditional doctor healing, but government does not recognize it, and so because of lack of the source of their medicine, this practice also going to be endangered. So this is the situation of our country. Thank you for hearing.